Hello everybody and welcome to Toyah at Home. If I sound a little bit boomy, it's because I'm in my vinery. I wanted to sit with my plants today. I've got beautiful peach blossom behind me that's going to be a bumper crop this year, and my gorgeous ginseng tree right next to me, a gift from my lawyer Peter. Very grateful for it. It's been a wonderful, wonderful week in many, many ways. The creativity is flowing. I've just finished a children's radio series, which I had to record here in a bathroom surrounded by mattresses to create what we call a dead sound. It was 15 episodes. It's going to broadcast in no more than a month. Very, very funny. Written by the poet Martin Kisco, who specializes in green ecological poetry. I play the narrator, so I was full on for 3 days in this tiny little bathroom recording away. I only finished yesterday. It's very funny and it's very brilliant and it's incredibly poignant and it's for children. It's radio, as I mentioned, and it goes from the North Pole right around the world, and it examines how we have affected through history the planet. But it manages to be incredibly educational, and it's called King Frank and the Knights of the Eco Quest. And if you've got children under the age of 10, I do recommend you listen to it. We will put up all the info once we have it so you can find it. Lots and lots of fun to do. And obviously, Posh Pop. I'm now shooting all the videos for Posh Pop. I plan for it to be available as a video album online, as well as obviously the album being available. I talked to the producers of my movie tribute act the other day, and it was due to be filming in Portugal, and it does have 50% of it filmed in the UK. So I've asked for the UK filming to be brought forward, which we can now do anytime in Yorkshire, as long as the funding is in place. And then we will go to Portugal in October, when hopefully travel will be able to happen, because the whole crew have to be able to move between the UK and Portugal. It is going to happen. It's just logistics, like everything. With Brexit and with the COVID virus, everything has to be planned in a very, very different way. But it's still an exciting time. I've had wonderful questions from you this week, but we're going to go to a song immediately because some of your questions, they do need in-depth consideration, and I don't want to rush or brush over them. Our first song is this wonderful song that came out around 94 that I wrote specifically for the fans, and for fans that were feeling they weren't being seen and weren't being heard, and that they stood away from society because they felt different. And the song is called Be Proud, Be Loud, Be Heard, recorded at the Water Rats in King's Cross with Chris Wong, the late great Colin Hines, John Humphreys and Mike Nichols. Enjoy! Be loud, be proud, be heard.
Divine takes a dance floor on a halo of light. He moves the night. Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? You send me spinning. I'm really spinning. Give me fire, fight, fight. You've really got that look in your eyes tonight. Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud. So I think I've been here before. As a child divine takes a dance floor on a halo of light. He moves the night and I'm falling in be proud, be loved, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loved, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be proud, be proud, be proud. Yes, I'm a spinning, I'm really spinning. Oh, around and around with my feet up and round. Stop or come tumbling down. You give me fire, fire, fire. You've really got that look in your eyes tonight. Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loud, be heard. Can you hear the word? Be proud, be loud, be heard. Be proud, be loud, be heard.
That was Be Proud, Be Loud, Be Heard, filmed at the Water Rats with the Toyah Band. I hope you enjoyed it. Our first question is from Dave Wilson. And Dave, you say a few weeks ago that you watched the brilliant speech given by Amanda Gorman at President Biden's inauguration. It turns out she had a speech impediment whereby she couldn't say the words that had the letter R in, and she used her speech to help her get over that. How did I cope with my lisp when I was younger? Mark Evans, you also say the same, that I had a lisp for years. It's completely unnoticeable now. How have I achieved this? Well, when I was at school, my speech impediment was incredibly bad. I have a raised palate, which is all part of what I was born with. And I had to learn to speak with that raised palate and also sing with it. So my speech impediment when I was very, very young was hugely noticeable. I mean, it made people laugh. It was so bad. So the lisp was a lot worse than it is now, and I had a lot of training. And obviously, because I'm a recording artist and I make movies and I do radio, I've become very aware of my physicality and how I sound and what weight I am, how old I look. I mean, everything is just pointed at you because of the job I am in. At school, I started elocution lessons with a very, very glamorous lady from the age of about 5 onwards. And those were very strict lessons where I was taught to speak with pebbles in my mouth. I think even I had to form words with small ping pong balls in my mouth. Not very safe, that wouldn't happen today. But I can remember having the beads of her necklace in my mouth at some point. I don't have any clean pebbles here. I've got my ring. Okay, an example. If you've got and please don't practice this because this is an old practice, and if you don't know what you're doing, you might choke. But I had to put a pebble in my mouth, a piece of paper, picked a pickled pepper. I had to be able to talk with that in my mouth. I mean, you don't do that today. When I moved on to the National Theatre, I was only 18. I was the youngest member of the National Theatre at this time, 1976. I had a wonderful vocal coach called Kate Fleming, who taught me how to reposition my tongue when I was speaking. And it's phenomenal because when you have a speech impediment, you don't know you have a speech impediment. It's other people that tell you about it. And at that age, the age of 18, I was not aware that it was such a problem. I was only aware that people were laughing at me all the time. So Kate taught me to reposition my tongue on my syllables. So when I was 18 years old, my tongue was positioned at the bottom of the back of my teeth. So I talked like that. I had a really soft lisp and I had to get rid of that lisp. That's exactly how I sounded. And Kate taught me to put my tongue at the back of the top of my teeth so that I could sound my T's and control my S's. So when I'm speaking now, and when I'm doing radio, and when I'm filming, I'm going to use a paragraph from a book I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is Derek Jarman's Notebooks. So this is a paragraph I wrote myself. So before my speech training, it would have been like this. It was one of the most massive learning curves I'd had and ever been on. I wanted my life to be radically different. So to talk like that, all you've got to do is put your tongue at the bottom of your front teeth. It's a technique I use when I'm doing radio and I have to create characters, but I wasn't aware of this when I was 18 or younger. So now I just keep my tongue positioned at the top of the back of the teeth, and it was one of the most massive learning curves I've ever been on. I wanted my life to be radically different. I didn't like my upbringing. I didn't really like myself. So as long as I hit the syllables at the top of the mouth and at the top of the front teeth, I know I'm not going to have massive sibilance in what I'm saying. Now, over the weekend, because I was doing poetry, a lot of the poems were all S's and T's, and it was challenging. You do get tired, but if you do have a lisp, you can be trained to lose it. You do need to know what you sound like, and you do need to retrain how you use your tongue, but it's very possible to do. And it also helped me because I have quite a high arch in my mouth, that as long as I can reach the back of the front teeth, I know I can control what I'm saying. So thank you very much for that question, and I hope that's helped future drama students, because it's a really important lesson to learn. If you can hear lots of buzzing, the place is filling up with honeybees. I have a net here that I normally catch bees and butterflies with because they're better used outside. I don't want them trapped in this vinery. But that's the buzzing. I feel as though I'm next to a honey hive at the moment. Michael O'Brien, you asked, would I ever go on Piers Morgan life stories? Well, my answer to that, Michael, is, well, why would Piers Morgan want me on his show? You've got to have a certain amount of jeopardy in your life, I think, or a certain amount of gossip or notoriety to be a success on these shows. And I'm not sure that I would be of interest to his audience. But what I would say, the variety of the people he's had on his shows is exceptional. And I do really feel respect towards that, because he's had people on that you think, well, they've not had a life yet, and he's had people on that have had great lives. I watched the Raquel Welch one and I thought it was magnificent. She was incredible, and he is a phenomenal interviewer, and we all know that. Would I go on it? I probably would, and I'd like to think that there is an awful lot of research covered when you do something like that and you're informed of what you're going to be talking about, because I would really want to research my life and remember what I've done in the past accurately. I don't like being remembered for tragedy or jeopardy, which is why I've really stopped doing daytime TV, because I have a wonderful life, I have a wonderful marriage, a great home and a great career, and I refuse to be defined by anything negative. And when I talk to journalists now, I say, please don't define me by my childhood. I'm now about to turn 63, and I've worked really hard for the life I have now. And my childhood may be the roots of what I am, but it's not who I am. And this is in response to a question I'm going to answer in a minute as well. I think people have to be released from their history. But with Piers Morgan, I would want to talk about the joy in my life, the hard work, the creativity and the successes. And I'm not sure that's what interests people. I have been through a lot in my childhood, especially with correction on my physical body, but I still don't feel it defines who and what I am. My creativity defines who and what I am. My will, my determination, and my will to keep learning defines who and what I am, and that I really care for other people. So I'm not sure that would make a great program. If he did ask, I would certainly not say no, but I'd want to know that it would be the best program possible that stands up with all the other remarkable people he's interviewed. I think he'd more likely ask me and Robert to do an interview together, because we've become a kind of worldwide success at the moment, and he'd be interested in our very English, eccentric lifestyle, I suppose. But it's a big question, and thank you for that, Michael, and thank you for thinking I'm worthy of going on it. Jimmy, you ask, with the exception of the Humans tour that we did on the East and West Coast, I mean, quite a while ago now, it's got to be at least 8 years ago, I've not done a Toyah gig or a Toyah tour in America. Why is this? And would you? Yes, I would. And what you've got to take into account, Jimmy, is you have to have an American record label, because tours take the record label telling the shops, each city, each town you're going to be in, and the PR people from the record label telling everyone where you're going to be, and the promoter working hand in hand with the record label. So I'm an import act as far as the USA is concerned. Unless I get a USA record label, I can't see I'll ever be able to tour there. And it takes promoters to invite you to go over and to make it financially possible. I would never ever just turn up in the USA with a guitar and expect to get a gig. It just doesn't happen like that. Very possibly with Posh Pop it might happen, but Robert will not be touring with anyone other than King Crimson, and that he's now, I think, in his penultimate tour. So he will not be coming to the USA with me to work. I think Robert now wants to stop touring after the next tour. Well, but that's not an announcement, that's just me speculating. I would happily work in America, and I'd happily do a package tour with other artists, because then you're on stage for no more than an hour, even though you're working every day, and you have the reliability of the machine working with a whole group of artists, a whole team on the road, and you're not left high and dry dealing with problems. I would love to do that, and it would be magnificent. When my career started, and I was 19 years old, I remember receiving a very, very bad review in the NME about, I think it was about a concert, and I was due to go over to New York and play the Whiskey A Go-Go, and the Whiskey A Go-Go cancelled the gig immediately on the strength of this bad review in the NME. And I've never really been able to pick up from that. So that won't happen these days. People know now that reviews they can be very, very personal, and they can be very, very inaccurate. So I don't think that kind of negative, immediate postponement of a gig could ever happen again, unless I broke the law. And I've never broken the law, and I don't have a criminal history, so America isn't a problem there. But who knows? I'm permanently optimistic. I might get to play there. I certainly have not put any barriers up. So I need the invite, guys. I need the invite. And also, the promoters need to know that an audience will be there. That door is not closed, and it's something I might be able to tick off my bucket list before I stop touring. Yay! That bee is having a great time in here. It's being joined by others all the time. This is a really important question, and I want to take this very, very seriously. I'm not qualified to kind of give you what would be a professional answer, but I've had similar experiences, which is why I really want to answer this for you honorably. This is from a mum with a teenage daughter. Davashakati, you say you have a wonderful daughter who's about to turn 18. She's got talent, skills, she does wonderful written word, she's a beautiful songwriter, but has very low self-esteem and self-confidence, and she's had difficulty difficult experiences in her life. As a result, she's in a very unhappy place, and after a meltdown 3 weeks ago, she went to stay with her grandparents. And you are asking, Davashakti, as a mum, how can your daughter follow her dreams, develop self-confidence, get out of a negative cycle, and stop damaging your relationship with each other? Is there any advice I could give to you as a mum who wants to support her daughter, and a daughter who is desperate of independence? How do we resolve this and remain connected so both of you can thrive? What a question. In my teens, I did not get on with my mum because my mum tried to shape me. My mother felt that I needed to change from what I naturally was, who and what I was. Now, I think your daughter is always going to have a hard time as a teenager, as she remains a teenager, because all those hormones are kicking off in her. She's got a long life ahead of her, and it's terrifying. And you have just spent a year of COVID lockdown. It's not a great place for young people at the moment. So how can you both thrive? I would say at the moment she is with her grandparents, and it's probably the best place she can be to calm down and reevaluate her behavior and to realize what your behavior represents. You want the best for her, she wants independence. She is now an independent, self-creative, self-thinking human being. She probably doesn't want to deal with expectation and probably fear of hurting you if she doesn't remain creative. She's got all this on her shoulders, as well as going out into the big wide world and learning to be her. And I think what's happened with her going to live with her grandparents is probably the best thing that can happen at this moment in time. And all you can do is show unconditional love and acceptance of who and what she is. Part of her negativity and lack of self-confidence, I think, comes from being a female teenager, with all that goes with being a biological woman, with the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the body. It ain't fun. And you know that, and I know that, and she's dealing with these ups and downs that are driving her crazy, which again affect you and hurt you and drive you both crazy when you're in the same space. When I was a teenager, I had a major meltdown with my mother. We physically fought the whole time. We were still physically fighting in the last year of her life, but it became more like this. All you can do, and what happened to me when I was a teenager, was that I was taken in by a wonderful Hindi family who knew I was a rebel. They knew I was having trouble just fitting in and communicating, dealing with my physicality and not doing well at school because of dyslexia. They took me in and they didn't question me once. All they said to me was, "You will not influence our daughters." But they just accepted me for who and what I was. They heard me. They never told me to change. They never told me to be different. They never told me that I was cross or angry or had negative thoughts. I was just there in the normality of their family. And your daughter hopefully is there in the normality of your grandparents, who are not criticizing her, who are not telling her to be anything other than herself, and just giving her that space to develop. And I'm hoping that your daughter is just getting this space to breathe, where she can reevaluate and think about what family is to her, what the reality of being in the outside world will be, and actually how much she's going to need you and her grandparents to anchor her when she goes out into that big open world and realizes that she's in a mass of people all fighting for the same thing. She's going to need you more than ever. So I would say, do not project anything onto her. be her ears, be her sounding board, be able to discuss things with her without shaping her, but only talking about common sense. Do not even put pressure on her to be creative. She's going through a really hard time. Young people have never been so stuffed as they have in this last year, where they haven't really been able to continue their education and their exams and to get jobs and to gain independence. It's been a terrifying 12 months. And if she shares her dreams and hopes with you, respond in a neutral way. So I'm asking you, Davashakti, and I know that your heart is hurting, try and be neutral with her. Do not put pressure on her. Try and be an open book that rewrites the story from now. And I really hope that advice helps you. I never ever fitted in with my mum, because my mum would always say the wrong thing. But in the last 2 years of my mother's life, she became and blossomed into a remarkable, beautiful woman. And even though we still argued and she still said the wrong thing, we learnt to live with each other. And be aware of what buttons you are pressing with your daughter. And just realize that you're pressing those buttons probably because of your upbringing. And if you can negate those, just ignore them, program those out of who and what you both are, and start to get today again in the moment, you might be able to find common ground. And I hope I've helped you there, because I really feel for you. Because one thing I do regret with my mother is we never ever sat down and said what really pressed our buttons about each other. We couldn't have that conversation. And where I have such admiration for you, Davashakti, is that you are open to ask this question to me, which means you're open to have that potential conversation with your daughter. And I'm thinking of you and I'm sending you so much love. Nige, you ask a lovely question. Just wondered, what are my fondest memories of working on Jubilee, and have you remained in touch with Adam and Jordan? I hear from Jordan a lot through other people, because Jordan is very active on the punk scene, doing documentaries. Also, because of her historical place within the punk movement, she's kind of a bit of an advisor on the punk movement. So I hear from her and about her all the time. Adam, I've not really heard from Adam for quite a while. He came to see me in Calamity Jane, which was 2003. That's the last time I saw him face to face, I believe. I know he's doing well. He is gigging, or keeps continuing to gig. He's in a very good place. His gigs are phenomenal, and I hear from fans about how he's doing, but I wouldn't say I'm in contact with either Adam or Jordan. But that, you know, in a life of performer, that is not unusual. We tend to cross paths in dressing rooms, TV studios, or at newspaper buildings or radio stations, but it doesn't mean doors are closed to us. In lockdown, I've been phenomenally busy, so I've had very little social time in lockdown, and I mean that by Zoom and telephone, not face-to-face, obviously. But, you know, no door is closed. You asked me, Nige, what are my fondest memories? And this is a book that was compiled posthumously about Derek Jarman's scrapbooks. And what I remember is going into Derek Jarman's living accommodation, which was a wonderful warehouse called Butler's Wharf by Tower Bridge. And when you walked into his huge first, I think it was third floor studio, which was an entire floor of this warehouse, he had tables with artwork laid out on. Now, the artwork most days was the shooting schedule on Jubilee, which he would draw pictures of. So we would gather around that table and he'd say, today we're going to shoot this sequence, we're going to have that close-up, that mid-shot, that main shot. So we all knew the picture that we were building that day. But also, he'd have artwork on the tables, and he was an incredibly neat creator. He was also a collector, so he had scrapbooks, and these were always laid out. And I just loved that about Derek, that everything he dealt with on a day-to-day basis, became a point of creative art. So, I'm going to show you this. And this, he collected feathers. And this was a feather from one of the sequences in Jubilee. And I remember him picking it up and saving it and putting it in his scrapbook. This is gorgeous. And as we are all still will be in some form of lockdown for a couple of years possibly, until the virus is completely eradicated, I think scrapbooks are the way forward, because they are a wonderful, tangible point of memory about what we are going through. And this book is glorious, and I wrote a chapter for it, and I'm very, very proud of it. I wrote a chapter about my memories on Jubilee and how I first met Derek and how he affected me. And he affected me greatly. He was a very open human being. There was no judgment. And funnily enough, I am now watching the series, the comedy series, Schitt's Creek, through for the second time because it makes me feel good. And it reminds me that the son in Schitt's Creek has no judgment. He's slightly catty and very acerbic, but he has no judgment, and no one judges him. And that is what Derek was like. He accepted everybody. So everyone that came into the room on this movie, he accepted for who and what they were. He expected them to work hard. He didn't judge them negatively. And that is one of my favourite memories about the humanity of Derek Jarman and everyone on that film. So we would arrive into his area and he'd have made drawings like this, which were about the camera angles, the position of the set, and what journeys he wanted us as characters to make on that set. That for me is one of my happiest memories. And of course the entire cast were glorious, from Little Nell to Adamant to Jenny Runacre to Jordan to Richard O'Brien. Even Eno did the music on it. It was fabulous. Everyone, Andrew Logan, were iconic, and they were iconic in that movement. And I'm so proud to have been on that movie. I was very, very undeveloped as a human being, but my goodness, I was on a great learning curve playing Mad in Jubilee. And my husband has just come into the binary.
Hello, lovey. Hello.
It's good to see you. Come squeeze in. How are you?
Hello, all our chums out there. Well, back from the gym and changed. And
Yeah.
I was just about to bring you lunch down here. May I say how wonderful it is that the spring has begun.
Yeah.
Hope and blossoming. For me, December was always a pretty rough period. December, January into February. It's when the King Crimson was going to break up. It would usually break up. And it was always pretty hard. But then around the middle of February, something would change.
Yeah.
And now here we are in the middle of March. Spring has begun, to see all the new blossomings, to see all the birds, all the little creatures out. It's so wonderful.
So are you feeling positive about
Yes,
things? Okay.
very, very positive. We get lots of messages from lovely people having a very hard time. I'm so optimistic and so positive about the future. Our living patterns have changed, and I think they're going to be changed for a long time to come. But there's opportunities in here somewhere, but we have to use our intelligence and initiative and find them. But I'm stunningly optimistic about it.
I think with us, technology has made so much possible for us that we have never ventured into before. We talked to Rolling Stone magazine this week. I mean, that's probably the first and last time I will ever talk to Rolling Stone magazine, and they wanted to talk to me. And technology has made so much possible for us, and we have loved doing what we've been doing in the last 12 months, that's a way we're going to move in future. Obviously, as we get older, I doubt that we will be touring, the way we used to tour, but we will be connected forever. As long as we're still here on this earth, we will be connected, and that has really opened our hearts in a major way.
I agree with what my wife has said. Meanwhile, for all those lovely people out there that come to visit us and would like to adopt us, or for us to adopt them, bless you.
It's a really lovely message to receive. Will you adopt us? Or we'd like to be your next door neighbours. It's been very positive and very fun. And thank you everyone for listening to this broadcast. We've got Agony Aunts tonight, which we're looking forward to, and a very good fun, kind of seasonal Sunday lunch tomorrow, considering what month is coming up next. And we're going to go out with a video of Fallen, which is a song I co-wrote with Yomanda. And Yomanda is a dance producer, Paul, and we did this in 2011. It's a lovely video. We'll see you tonight, obviously, and tomorrow. Have a great week, and see you next week on Toyah at Home as well. Lots of love from Toyah.
And from the husband too.
This is Fallen. Enjoy.
I must confess, I couldn't care less. I must confess, I couldn't care less. Today I feel small, about 2 foot tall. Tomorrow I am sure I'll win this war. I've a job like eyes I truly despise, but I can feel the rain wash away that stain. I must confess, I'm not even dressed. I'm just too stressed, and I couldn't care less. Is it imagination? Something's crossed the line. An angel's fallen through the edge of time. Bewildered and beguiled, the eyes of a child. You're naked as the truth, just me and you. The dust still falls within these walls. I've never believed before. Now there's a miracle at my door. I must confess, only others are ever blessed. I couldn't care less about that Sunday best. Is it imagination? Just my mind can fly. An angel's fallen into my life tonight. I must confess, it's a starless night.